Let me just start the recording here. I'm going to be like everybody else. I'll just give you fair warning so that you can all go and find your record button and hit it, begin it, do whatever it is that you want. This net runs every Sunday evening from 1900 for about an hour, depending on what we do. Usually about 20 to 30 minutes due to COVID. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, the net is intended for those that have an interest in emergency communications. And just to let everybody know that every radio amateur has the rights as given in the regulations to practice emergency communications. In like manner, you don't need to be a member of any body, entity, club, group, or otherwise to make use of the repeater or to join the net. The only thing you need is your ECRN license to be paid up, and of course you're more than welcome to join us. ZS6OPS returning. And as I said, to practice MCOM, the only thing you also need is, of course, a paid up ECRN license. You don't need to be a member there to practice either of any club or entity, body, or otherwise. Okay, so let's have a look and see. We've only got Adrian and Pierre out there tonight, so let's just quickly do a quick greeting. Pierre, I'll hand it to you. Pierre, then you can give it to Adrian. Adrian, you can give it back to me. I'll just have a pause at the end to hear if there are any other late check-ins. ZS6FPS, ZS6OPS in the net.
Good evening, guys. Thank you, Chad. Adrian. Everything on my side fine. Like you said, video day today. Before, everything's going well. I'm trying to get sickness or illness or anything else. Okay. There is SMI from ZS6FPS.
Okay, thanks, guys, and good evening. Thanks for joining the net. And of course, numbers may be low, but the numbers that are listening are always high. So for the benefit of those that are in actual fact listening, as well as the two that have joined the net, let's kick off there. And let's firstly look at the global COVID-19 situation. We are up this week again, 16 million, just over 16 million new cases. We now stand at 410,761. 410,761,411. South African figures, on the other hand, the numbers haven't been increasing that much. We're still averaging sort of between 1,500 new cases a day and about 3,000 a day. Our current count at this stage is 22 million tests were conducted in South Africa. 3.6 million people have tested positive, and of course the daily deaths is, well, in the last 24 hours the daily deaths has actually increased, but it's been somewhere in the region of just below 50. I see that on Saturday the 12th of February they reported 135 new deaths. Now I must admit that number is a lot higher than what we have been seeing on average over the previous week. So this entire week, the total number of deaths has actually increased across the board. 9th of February, 213. So there is been, or has been, a bit of a swing in the figures locally. And of course, the total death toll globally is 1.8 million at this stage. I think that the biggest news that's sort of taken place during the course of the week with regards to COVID has been the fact that Dr. Tedros has been out to South Africa to come and visit some of the laboratories and manufacturing plants, as one of the South African companies has now developed its own vaccine based on the publicly available rDNA protocols and all the rest of the information that was available. So South Africa intends to mass produce this and roll it out to the African countries, and we'll have to monitor and see what goes on with that. Dr. Tedros actually has responded to a comment. There was an embargoed email or embargoed newsletter, at least, ZS6OPS returning. There was an embargoed news media statement, I should say, that was released during the course of the week, where the World Health Organization will be looking at trying to eradicate COVID-19 in 2022, but then they state that this is going to be at a cost of about $21 billion, and they believe or are of the opinion that that will have to be distributed on a fair basis throughout the countries of the world. However, Dr. Tedros has in actual fact come back this week and on his visit to South Africa, and has said that the possibility of it happening is probably not going to happen. So we'll just have to look at another year at least that we know, well, I should say this year plus next year, before we might see any major changes. The home testing kits definitely have been contributing to the higher numbers that have been reported globally. However, in South Africa, these home test kits haven't been approved for use, and this is why it has not been rolled out on the South African front. Outside of that, I must admit there is nothing else really happening. Just a very quick, simple report back on that tropical cyclone, Batsarai, that hit Madagascar during the course of last week. Fortunately, when it made landfall in Madagascar, yes, there was extensive damage to the towns in its path. 92 people lost their lives, which was unfortunate. However, fortunately, it never moved towards Mozambique, as the storm arrived in the Mozambican channel itself. It did a bit of a left turn and headed down south. So Mozambique, fortunately, was not subjected to any damage or any other sort of adverse weather conditions. Now, I know that when they saw that, we expected the tracking of the storm to swing left and track south, KZN went on high alert, especially north Durban, from Durban headed up north, as they expected heavy winds and large swells and all the rest of it. I know that the Sharks board were pulling the nets out off of the beaches in order to prevent damage to them, and all the other good stuff that happens with those nets. ZS6OPS returning, however, again, no damage, no adverse weather conditions were reported for the Natal coastline either. So I think we were pretty good with that one. I know that parts of the Cape are still experiencing extremely hot weather, and outside of that, well, Gauteng has just had 2-3 days of it, and I do believe that rainfall is only expected from Tuesday onwards. So we'll have to see how that pans out. Hopefully we're coming to the end of this rainy season now, and we don't need to unplug the equipment as often as we are being required to do, or have been required to do, over this last summer rainy season, which has been a bit of a problem overall. So outside of that, nothing else to report. I don't know if anybody, if you guys want to jump in with something. If so, just give me a call sign, I'll call you in. Otherwise, I'm going to start looking towards closing down tonight's net. ZS6OP is standing by. Okay, nothing else heard there. I see the Democratic Republic of the Congo is experiencing some flooding at the moment. The whole central belt seems to be taking a bit of a whack, and we'll have to see and just monitor and see what happens with that one. So fortunately, it looks as though the bad weather that the southern tip of Africa has been experiencing may be moving forward. Okay, so in closing, no further statements or comments or otherwise from Adrian and Pierre. Let's check any other late check-ins. ZS6OP is standing by. Right, nothing else heard. Guys, I'd like to say thank you for calling in. Those of you that listened tonight, thanks for listening. Again, I'd just like to try and encourage you to rather call in and check in with us and let us know that you are there. That way, you know, it does help us to understand who is out there and also give us an opportunity to make contact with you and maybe get some content for future nets, etc., etc. On that note, for the coming week, again, in terms of COVID, we're still under the disaster management regulations, which means that you need to wear your masks out in public, and you definitely need to physically distance yourself, and please don't forget to sanitize your hands. I think during the course of this week, the Russia-Ukraine tensions may come to an end. Because there's a lot of expectation that an invasion will take place, and I believe that one of the American newspapers has actually now stated that Tuesday is the day for the invasion, and there's a set date. So again, this is going to have a little bit of an impact across the world in terms of, well, everything really, especially the rand dollar or the dollar exchange rate. So I think this is going to become a little bit of a problem, yet another one. Guys, have a good week. Be safe, be prepared, and of course, be happy. This is ZS6OPS, releasing 145.625 for general use. And for those of you that did start your recordings, you can now stop them. Good night, all.